But
thought
you would
process.
say that your brain has no real purpose, right?
It has no inherent purpose. I use it
Okay.
for the purpose of thinking.
Okay. But it's not made for the purpose of thinking.
There is no God that on purpose made things with the purpose that
I didn't
it
say God.
bestowed upon
No,
them.
God
Well,
doesn't exist in this hypothetical.
okay.
I just want
Uh,
you to
so then
understand from your
nothing.
view.
So then you would agree that nothing would have any kind of inherent purpose from a higher power. If it's all chance, then there's no inherent purpose to anything other than what proliferates due to conferring a survival advantage.
And so why would I listen to sounds coming from a purposeless brain?
Because I'm right.
I previously gave my thoughts on this interaction here, but it appears that Jimbob is still defending his initial position, and that this is what he meant. The context is that he's criticizing evolution. His criticism is simply that he thinks evolution entails that you can't know what a proper functioning brain is. This criticism fails on two accounts. First, there isn't actually a pressing issue the proponent of evolution has to solve here, and second, if there was a problem, Jimbob's worldview wouldn't actually solve it. How is there not a problem here? Well, the alleged problem is that evolution entails that you can't know what proper thinking is. If proper thinking just means the ability to track the truth, then it's false that evolution entails the inability to track truth. Alternatively, if proper functioning has nothing to do with tracking the truth, then you're not providing a good criticism. Why would I give up evolution if you grant that that's totally compatible with being able to track the truth? What's the criticism then? There's only a criticism if we assume that proper functioning means the ability to track the truth. And as I said earlier, it's simply false that evolution entails the inability to track the truth. Formally speaking, it's just a non sequitur. It doesn't follow that not being created for a particular purpose entails the inability to track truth. That's just a straightforward, invalid argument. Putting aside validity, we weren't even given any positive reason to think that this conclusion is now made more likely. But furthermore, these two concepts seem utterly disconnected. The ability to track the truth is one concept, and being created for a particular purpose is another. It's just asserted that we have a worry about being able to track the truth, and then the concept of not having a purpose is brought up. One is an inability, the other is an inherent purpose. Those are just as inherently connected as your height and your inherent purpose. It would be utterly bizarre to tell me that I must be tall because I have no inherent purpose. What on earth could the connection even possibly be? One's a size, one's a purpose. And if you think about it, even if it may seem on the surface like there's a connection, there isn't. What on earth does a purpose tell us about our inability or our abilities? Your purpose doesn't force you to do something, if you actually have one, and it doesn't prevent you from doing something either. If it doesn't make sense to say that you can't eat breakfast because your purpose was not to eat breakfast, if that doesn't make sense because what your purpose is and what you eat for breakfast don't inform one another, then it doesn't make sense to say that your brain is capable or not capable of observing reality because of what purpose your brain has. Those are equally as disconnected. Which leads me to my second criticism. The first, of course, being that there's no issue. Why on earth should we worry that we can't track the truth? No reason was provided. That was the first problem. Just because we weren't designed to track truth doesn't mean we can't. And now the second problem. Even if we were designed to track truth, that doesn't guarantee that we can. Meaning that if we actually had the skeptical worry that Jimbob alleged we had, namely, how do we know that our brains can track the truth? If this was a worry, given the disconnect between purpose and ability, Jimbob's worldview wouldn't solve the problem that he thinks exists. But solving this problem was the whole motivation he was giving to reject evolution and accept his worldview. If it turns out that there's not only not a problem, but that if there were, Jimbob's solution wouldn't solve it, he's done absolutely nothing, on top of absolutely nothing. Let's examine just how his worldview fails to solve this problem. So the problem is, how can you know that you're tracking the truth? Now, provided you're actually skeptical about whether or not you could track the truth, Knowing your purpose is not going to solve that issue. Your skepticism won't be removed by knowing your purpose. After all, it shouldn't be. You could be designed to do something and still utterly fail to do that thing. You could be designed to track the truth and still completely not track the truth. In fact, I'm sure that even on Jimbob's view, people are designed with purpose and are designed to be able to track the truth. But even on his view, not everyone is going to fulfill their purpose, and of course, not everyone is tracking the truth, further substantiating the disconnect between what you're capable of doing and what your purpose actually is. Even Jimbob is committed to the disconnect here. He may not realize it, but even on his view, God makes not just people that are wrong, but people that are fundamentally wrong, like delusional schizophrenic people, further demonstrating that your purpose, what you're intended to do when you are created, even on Jimbob's view, doesn't solve the skeptical issue. If he responds, but the people that have these mental disorders were actually not necessarily designed for the purpose of tracking the truth, that doesn't solve the problem. Now you have, on your worldview, two kinds of groups of people. People designed to track the truth and people not designed to track the truth. If you have that on your very own worldview now, how on earth are you going to maintain that you're one of these people that could track the truth? How are you supposed to know that? Aren't you a skeptic? And if he retracts his skepticism or lowers the standard to get out of the skeptical scenario, then the whole argument falls apart because it was predicated on a skeptical worry. Basically, there's a mirror strategy. The skeptical issue he raises for the proponent of evolution, like I said, is not actually problematic, but if it were, we could just make the same problem for him. We could mirror all of his replies. If the proponent of evolution tells him that they know they could track the truth because it's obvious that they can, if he doesn't think that works, if he doesn't think that's a way out of skepticism, then he can't apply a double standard and appeal to the obviousness of the fact that he's not in a skeptical scenario. If there really is a skeptical scenario for the proponent of evolution, there's gotta be a skeptical scenario for him as well. So in summary, just as we're not worried about our inabilities because of our purpose, right? We're not limited, we don't have inabilities due to our lack of purpose. Just as that's true, we also don't gain attributes because of our purpose. We don't gain capacities because of our purpose. Therefore, whether or not we have purpose is not going to create any problems about an inability, and it's not going to solve any problems. It's not going to ensure that we have a ability. This was not only a swing and a miss by Jimbob, but it was a swing so weak that even if it hit, the ball would have gone nowhere.